Welcome back, everyone. Week 6, leading at home. So, moving on from leading yourself into taking that into the home. This becomes about the practical art of relational leadership and creating stability and sharing the load between both of you. So, welcome back. Today is a big one. We've spent the last few weeks learning how to understand your partner, how to master your own reactions, how to communicate better and repair, and how to lead yourself. And everything we've covered so far kind of focuses on the emotional side of things, and it all converges into this week where we look at the practical side of things and we start to lead in the home. And before we start, I want to be like super clear about stuff. This is not about old school gender roles. It's not about dominance or control. It's not about doing everything yourself and overburdening yourself. It's not about becoming the boss of your partner or the home. It's about something far more grounded and relational than that. It's about becoming the man who brings clarity where there was confusion, structure where there was chaos, and harmony where there was overwhelm. Because the opposite of chaos in a home isn't order, it's harmony. And harmony happens when expectations are clear, the mental and emotional load is shared. Nobody's guessing, nobody is carrying everything themselves, and everybody understands the plan. You have a plan and you're moving towards it. Now, most men were never taught how to lead a home fully. You normally learned through the last couple of generations how to work, how to provide, how to survive, and how to push through, but not how to lead the environment or the ecosystem that your family lives in. Now, today, that changes. And before we talk about systems and planning and calendars, responsibilities, or leadership, we need to understand the invisible structure that every home runs on. Because there are 5 domains, and even if one of them collapses, the relationship feels it. But these are emotional load, mental load, practical load, relational load, and leadership load. So the 5 loads that essentially keep the home together: emotional, mental, practical, relational, and leadership. When one of these domains is neglected, the tension starts to rise. When most of them or many of them are neglected, the relationship starts to really collapse, because that's when resentment builds, that's when disconnection happens, that's when you start to vilify each other or try and the criticism. Some of the 4 horsemen come in: criticism, contempt, defensiveness, stonewalling. That's where those things come in. Now, let's break each one of these down. So let's take emotional load first. This is like the atmosphere that you're trying to create in the house. This includes soothing conflict, so being able to lead in soothing conflict. And we've done a lot on communication and conflict resolution before. It's about regulating tension. This is about understanding her and understanding and leading yourself and knowing what causes the collapse of connection. It's about creating emotional safety for your partner, and if you have kids, your kids, your whole family. It's about noticing emotional cues, like actually being able to read the room that you're in and notice those emotional cues and respond appropriately. It's about repairing after conflict. If conflict actually happens, if there's an unavoidable conflict that you go through, it's about repairing after that properly and appropriately. And creating that predictable presence that we spoke about before, actually showing up predictably and creating a sense of safety in your house. Now, women often carry all of these by default. They kind of focus a lot on bringing these, innately, they show up in these realms by default. But the emotional leadership that you're looking for is essentially regulating your nervous system, bringing predictable presence, and staying steady under pressure. If it could be refined down to 3 things: uh, emotional leadership, or leading in the emotional load, carrying the emotional load of the household, is regulating your nervous system, so not causing more chaos than there already is, not responding or reacting to things in a way that makes them worse. Bring in a predictable presence, so you show up in a predictable way that people can rely on. You become reliable and understandable, and expectations are met, and you stay steady under pressure. So you actually make the best out of bad situations. You move through things gracefully, and people can rely on you to steady the ship and to keep a level head when things are going wrong. When you start losing your shit, then the whole family and the whole relationship and the whole home feels it. And essentially, a woman relaxes when the emotional atmosphere in the house becomes safe and you show up grounded and you have a certain level of consistency. It's about safety, groundedness, and consistency. She needs to see that from you in order for you to take on some of the emotional load and manage the atmosphere in the house. Now, the second is the mental load. So, moving on from emotional load, the mental load, this is the one that exhausts women the most. This is like remembering everything, anticipating needs. Women actually live in a different world to us as men. Women are programmed from a young age to plan ahead. They're taught from a young age that they might be mothers one day. So they're kind of they're looking into the future as like, okay, I'm going to have to do this thing that you've done. They have proper rites of passage with menstruation and becoming a woman. And they have a period every month that they are expecting and planning for, and their moods change based on that. So they're constantly looking in the future. Whereas men react and respond in the day, as we spoke about before, in terms of our hormonal cycles, men have 24 hours, women have 28 days cycles. So we're kind of more reactive by nature, whereas women anticipate needs much better because they're future casting all the time. They're looking into the future. So the mental load of a household is like remembering things, anticipating the needs, cooking meals, like knowing what people need and nourishing them, creating schedules and thinking about the kids and what they need, buying gifts and thinking about proper gift giving and scheduling appointments, doing the admin of the house and school and anything related to the kids and like doctors and dentists and essentially this future planning and taking charge of logistics. Most of the time, women will be on this. Even if they're not taking practical action, they are thinking about it. So sometimes they do both. Sometimes they think about it intensively and they take the practical action. Sometimes they're thinking about it and they're seeing no action being taken. And even they're not doing it, but they're kind of expecting that you're going to be in charge of that because that would be more under the kind of polarity, the pole of the masculine dynamic or the masculine energy of like progress and structure and stability, safety, security, and accomplishment, like having the plan and the vision. That would be the masculine pole. Now, if they're not doing that, they are expecting that to be done. Not all of it, like I said, but just like there's maybe a thought and a recognition that it's not being done. And this is what turns into the invisible labor that most men never really see that their wives are doing. Like planning, thinking, looking ahead. And leadership here really looks like taking initiative. Most women would be delighted, more delighted, if we just took more initiative. If we thought about something, we didn't ask for permission. We didn't ask to do something. We didn't ask questions. We didn't constantly look for validation and safety before we took initiative on something. They would like to see us thinking ahead and planning the week and reducing the cognitive burden on her and the household and actually just doing it ourselves. Like I said last week, doing what you know needs to be done without being asked to do it, and don't look for recognition for doing it. Now, this alone can change a relationship and a home overnight. Now, moving on from that, if we can do that, if we can take care of the emotional and the mental load, fantastic. The practical load is the visible work. So mental is the invisible, practical is the visible work. This is the cooking, the cleaning, the laundry, the bedtime routines, the actionable admin day to day, the school prep, the maintenance of the household. Men often overestimate what they do here and they underestimate what she does. So leadership here is pretty simple. It's, like I said, don't wait to be asked. Complete tasks fully. So when you start something, after planning ahead and knowing when it needs to be done and then starting the task, complete that task fully. Be dependable and be consistent. Consistency is reliability. So it's consistency, not intensity. We're not doing big, grandiose, like flash in the pans. I'm doing loads of stuff. Small things over time. The practical load is done in the small things over time and doing them because you want to do them. A lot of times men will, like I said, overestimate what they're doing and keep a diary, keep it almost a list of successes, like tick, 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 I did this. And then when we're challenged, we're like, no, but I did this, this, and this. These are not weaponized. They're not artillery that we can fire. They're not something that we can use. reframing this to, we're doing that because we live in the house and we're adults and we have responsibilities and we need to do this. We're doing this because we want to. We're not doing this so that we can use it against her. We're not doing this so we can um, vindicate ourselves and say that we are doing X, Y, and Z. We're doing it because we want to. Just don't walk past the task and not do it. Just do it because that's our responsibility. We have to do it. So it's like not waiting to be asked, completing the task fully, being dependable, being consistent, and showing up and building that trust. When you do that, when you do what you know needs to be done without being asked to do it and don't look for recognition or validation or appreciation for doing it, that builds trust because she sees that you're just showing up. You're doing what you're supposed to do. And she might be doing the same. And if she's not, there's room for a conversation there. But that's where so many other elements of this, and we'll move on and we'll go to the next one. The next one is the relational load. So the relational load in the household, this is like the lifeblood of connection. This is what you need to do. And it's all the stuff we've spoken about the collapse of connection, understanding her, mastering your actions, leading yourself. Everything is built up to influencing how we can create real and meaningful connection. And part of that is the relational load. This is initiating dates, like keeping the romance alive, like doing something meaningful that you guys can actually spend quality time. Going back to our love languages, most women sit in their primary love language as quality time. Initiate the dates, create that quality time, plan it, actually spend the time, actually really put effort into initiating a meaningful connection time between you and your partner. And aside from that, checking in with her emotionally, letting her sit in that feminine energy, actually welcome the emotion, try and actually be curious and give her time, give her your attention, give her your appreciation, actually nourish that side of her. Checking in emotionally is what takes on some of this relational load, because she will be trying to do it with you, right? And it maybe feels like it's incongruent or difficult for you to connect in that way. Whereas if you're taking the responsibility to do that, it takes the burden off of her. She is now engaging with you on an emotional level, and she wasn't the one to initiate that. Oftentimes what men do is they try and initiate on a physical level, and that needs to come first for them in order to create an emotional connection, whereas women are on the flip side. It's a cosmic joke. So women need to connect emotionally before they can connect physically. Men often feel like they need to connect physically before they can connect emotionally. So if you can reprogram that and come out of the physical need and into the emotional support and curiosity, that will take the burden of emotional connection away from her. And it helps you, actually, when we attune into that, it helps you notice when there is a disconnection and move towards it. And doing all of these things allows you to maintain real connection that might lead to that physical connection, which might lead to intimacy and like proper loving of each other, like being in love, allowing yourself to be in love and intimate with your partner comes from carrying some of the relational load. And aside from that, not even like romantically, actually nourishing it platonically too. Nurturing the friendship that you guys have is really, really important. So actually sitting in that space and giving her what she needs as your friend. Remember when you first met, before you got married, before you had kids, if you have kids, and what it was like to be her friend. Like imagine going back and nourishing that part of your connection with her. That would be really, really beautiful, because keeping the relationship alive involves being friends with her. You have to be friends with her. You have to, in order to connect with her on all these different levels, there needs to be a level of camaraderie and connection and appreciation for each other. And that's, a friendship. Now, women do this automatically, but men struggle with it. Men must become co-leaders here. We need to lead this. They'll be doing it already, but you need to co-lead this. You need to take some ownership over the relational load and start initiating closeness, start investing in the relationship, and start planning connection meaningfully and intentionally without an end goal. It has to be done in a way that isn't obvious and clear that you're looking for sex at the end of it. It needs to be carrying the relational load because you want connection. You want to be close to this person. You are trying to communicate to them that you actually love them. You are taking responsibility for the us, the unity, and relationally, this kind of relational leadership keeps the love alive more than anything. Now, the final one is the leadership load. So this is about vision and direction. This sits very firmly in the masculine pole, the masculine direction or directive. This is about vision and direction and legacy. So the masculine sits in this space and kind of holds this pillar of the home. And leadership here looks like creating clarity and deriving purpose or finding purpose, planning clearly, and creating a clear direction that you, your partner, the relationship, or the family are moving in, and creating a structure around that that allows you to move forward. Imagine throwing a bowling ball down an alley and having the bumper sides up. So no matter if it goes close to the edge or not, it's going to bump back into the middle, and where the ball is heading towards the pins at the end. That's its destiny. It's heading to knock some pins down, and we need the bumper lane sometimes to keep us on track. And that's the structure. So you got the direction heading towards the pin. The structure is the things that are going to keep that thing moving down the aisle, and we're going to hit those pins and knock as many of them over as we can, achieve as many of the things that 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 we want to achieve as a family, as a relationship, as you can. So in order to do that, you're going to need boundaries. So part of the leadership load is creating solid boundaries, actually finding out your PBs, so your priorities, your expectations, your agreements, and your boundaries, and using them, getting super clear on them. We're going to come back to them in our sex and intimacy lecture in following lectures. So we're going to look at PBs: priorities, expectations, agreements, and boundaries. And what these do is they set the standards that you want to hold for this home, for this relationship, for the legacy that you're trying to build. And in and around that, you've got all these systems that are going to keep this flowing, keep this on track. They're going to maintain everything going forward. You have to maintain systems that outwork your motivation, your desire, or the dopamine in your brain that's making you do things. You need to have systems that keep this train on the track. Now, this is not about controlling her. It's about designing the environment. How can you start to design the home and the environment that you are living in that creates real connection and a purposeful path towards what you actually want, both of you together in this unity, in the relationship, in the home? That is the leadership load that is within leading the home, designing the environment that creates stability, it brings structure, it's planning for the future, and it provides real direction. Now that we understand the 5 domains, let's talk about how men unintentionally lose leadership at home. Men tend to collapse into 3 universal patterns within leading in the home, within the home. They tap into either passivity, so waiting to be told what to do. It creates like a mother-son dynamic, and she becomes really frustrated with it. Or they move into reactivity, so emotional unpredictability, reducing safety and increasing stress for her, putting her in a sympathetic nervous system state where she cannot connect with you because she feels unsafe. The third is inconsistency, starting really strong and fading really quickly. So like starting a job, like saying you're going to do something and then fading really quickly, and it breaks the trust and reliability. So the kind of 3 universal patterns are passivity, reactivity, and inconsistency. Passivity, reactivity, and inconsistency. So have a think about which one of those in the home you might be showing up in the most. And underneath these behaviors are some of the things that we've spoken about before in terms of the nice guy conditioning, some of the nice guy syndrome behaviors that we spoke about before: over domestication of men, lack of internal leadership, so not knowing yourself enough to like really act congruently with who you are and how you want to show up. Fear of conflict, not knowing what to do, and then dipping into like avoidant attachment styles potentially. So this week is about reclaiming that leadership from these patterns. So reconvening, reclaiming the leadership that you have lost to these patterns. So the family vision meeting, this is really, really important. This is one of the first things that we need to do in order to lead in the home, is get absolutely clear on the vision. This is your yearly ritual. Every year I do this with my wife and my family and my kids, and we set our intentions. This is our vision for our future. So this is your yearly ritual to build clarity and direction and harmony as a team. You're working together. Most couples drift and kind of do their own thing in the household. There's no real clarity. You're kind of both kind of fighting for survival, especially if there's disconnection. You're just kind of making stuff happen. There's no real vision that's binding you two together that you're moving towards as a team. And you tend to react to life a lot more. Maybe opportunities or challenges, you're reacting to them because you don't actually know where you're heading. When you have a clear vision, it makes it much easier to stay on track because you know what to say no to and you know what to say yes to, because you know if it contributes to that vision. So getting clear on the vision that you both want to hold allows you to be clearer with each other, with other people, and what you want to do as a family unit. Now, this is so I can't tell you clearly enough how important this is. A family vision meeting puts you both in the driver's seat. It creates equality, it creates connection, it creates joint leadership. And inside this meeting, what you're aiming to map out is your family values. So, actually, what are the values that you want to conduct your family through and in, that are going to state your intentions for life and the legacy that you want to build? You're going to build in relationship rituals. So part of the vision is relationship rituals. Like, what are we going to do together, and whose responsibility is what? You can kind of pinpoint that to keep our relationship alive. You're going to set parenting goals. So relationship rituals and goals, parenting goals, like what do we want to achieve with our children and how are we going to achieve it? Start really, pulling this apart and figuring stuff out, actually setting some intentions to it. A lot of the stress that we feel in our relationship and in the home is just a lack of clarity. And it's just because we haven't had the conversation. We just haven't talked about it. It's so simple. It's obvious and painfully obvious, because if you just talk about it, then you get clarity. So just talk about it. Don't avoid it. Move towards it. What are the parenting goals? What are we actually looking to do? And while we're at it, what are our personal development goals? What am I looking to do and what are you looking to do? So then we actually both know where we're kind of heading individually, what we want to do this way, what we want to do as a unity, what we want to do as parents, what we want to do as a household. What are all of these things? And you can develop these together so that you understand where each of you is coming from and how you want to show up in this space. One of the important ones that we often avoid and brings about the most fear in most relationship is finances. So getting absolutely clear on your finances, and Google AI generate, speak to a financial advisor and create a financial planning and cash flow document that you can both monitor and be responsible for in your own ways to create financial clarity. Financial abundance and financial freedom comes from financial clarity. You cannot have abundance and freedom financially if you don't have financial clarity. The only way you get financial clarity is by building systems that give you that clarity. Having a spreadsheet is not enough to just look at your bank balance and have a notes on your phone, or keep a track record on the back of a napkin or in a notebook. Having a practical, professional, and mature system that you can both see, that you both have access to. And while we're on that, calendar planning. So, on top of finances, creating financial clarity and shared responsibility, syncing up as much as you possibly can. Your calendars, your reminders, actually your life planning, your life admin, your ladmin, like actually syncing up all of your calendars helps you stay clear. So creating as much clarity as you possibly can within the home by syncing up all these different systems. Create financial clarity, create logistical clarity, sync your calendars, have multiple different calendars for multiple different things, calendars for your kids, calendars for activities, calendars for your work, calendars for her work, calendars for your connection time and date nights, calendars for uh, different like family rituals or big events throughout the year. create those systems that create clarity and reduce or remove completely all ambiguity. Fear in the home comes from ambiguity. When you don't know what's coming, when you don't know what's around the corner, you're much less likely, or probably much more prone to fearing poking your head around the corner. You don't want to look around because you don't know what's there. You certainly don't want to just walk around because there might be something dangerous around there. So actually, imagine getting a wee mirror and just poking around the corner and making sure you know what's there, and then you can move through it more confidently, more clearly, with um, the ability to respond to different stimulus and challenges. Get as much clarity as possible, and then build boundaries and standards that you want to hold yourself to around all of these different things. So have the conversations around boundaries and standards and things that you want to actually do as a family, as a couple, as a unit, and creating a stable home. Build those boundaries and standards into this vision and planning meeting. So the family vision meeting. One thing that's really, really useful for all of this is creating a yearly theme, even just a word. Every year, my family has a word that we work towards that is the kind of overarching theme that we're operating under. What do we want to achieve from this year? Is it growth? Is it nesting? Is it peace? Is it abundance? Is it joy? What is it that you're actually using as your North Star that you're heading towards? Get clear on that theme, on that word, and that goes up in big, bold letters somewhere on a blackboard, a whiteboard, a wall, a notice board, somewhere. That is our year. Our year, 2020, whatever, is about this. This is what we're looking to achieve. Then you can operate everything underneath that. It creates clarity. When you know what your vision is, you can say yes to things and say no to things because you know whether it's going to be contributing to this overarching theme or plan or vision that you're doing. And then underneath that, you can plan all of your home projects, travel plans, date rituals, connection rhythms, and your identity as a family based on the family values that you've created. Like I said, this meeting removes ambiguity, and ambiguity is where the resentment in a home grows. What we're looking for is harmony, and that is created through gaining more clarity. Clarity creates harmony, and you lead this meeting. You initiate it, you lead it, you bring all of these points, and you say, this is what I would like to get in this meeting. And it doesn't have to be one sitting, it can be multiple sittings. You can sit over a week, open a glass of or bottle of whatever you desire and spend some time connecting over this. This is a joint mission and vision that you're creating together, but you are leading this meeting, not by dictating and controlling and overpowering and dominating, but by initiating and structuring and guiding and keeping things on track whilst still being flexible and taking everything that she wants to bring into it because it is a joint vision. Now, I want to talk about my JAR method because it's really, really helpful when you get into the kind of roots of this vision and meeting and planning and looking at the year ahead. I want to help you turn vision into something practical. Now, the JAR method is one of the most powerful family planning tools that I've ever found, and I use it every single year. Now, your JAR is your family's capacity. Imagine this vessel, this jar. It's the family's capacity in terms of how much you are able to do as a family. Now, you must be able to fit everything from your year inside this jar. But the order of things that you put in this jar determines whether life is harmonious or chaotic. So let me paint this picture for you. Imagine this jar, this vessel sitting on the table, and imagine I took out an equal jar filled with golf balls, and I put all the golf balls in this new jar. Now, you've seen it, and then I ask you, is this jar full now? Most people will say, yeah, the jar is full of golf balls. There's no more space in that. But if I then took out another jar of pebbles and poured all the pebbles into this jar of golf balls, the pebbles would all fall in between all the golf balls and they would fit. So, okay, great. Now is the jar full? Is the jar full? Now, yes, you would say, normally. Then I would pull out another jar of fine sand, and I pour the sand into the jar, and the sand all goes in between all the pebbles, all the golf balls, and kind of holds everything in place. It's really secure now. There's actually no more room. Genuinely, you look at that jar and say, is that jar full now? Yep, I can't see any space or anything. There's absolutely no room. And then I pull out a bottle of water, and I pour the water into the jar, and it all fits. So the order that you put things into the jar determines whether life is harmonious or chaotic, whether it even all fits in. If you were to put the pebbles in first and you try to put the golf balls in second, the golf balls wouldn't fit. If you were to try to put all the sand in and then put all the golf balls in, it wouldn't fit. Any order apart from biggest first down to the smallest doesn't work. So the golf balls that go into this jar, the golf balls are the big non-negotiables. They are holidays, birthdays, school terms, family commitments, your work commitments, work cycles, big events, even, big relational events like anniversaries and things would be important. They would fall under golf balls too. All of the non-negotiables, the things that are set in stone that have to be on that specific date. Now, when you're doing the jar method, you are literally going to look at 365 days of the next year. You're going to, normally start on the 1st of January if you can, and take the entire year and look at every single day on your iCalendar that is joint and synced and everything else that we spoke about before. And you're going to go through the whole thing. And you're going to plot in as much as you possibly can. You might not have much after 6 months, but you're still going to keep looking because you'll have birthdays and things like that you need to be aware of. But you're going to go through the whole year and plot in all the golf balls that you know of at this point. And you're going to put them in now. Those are the big immovable, non-negotiable things. Then you're going to go back to the beginning. You're going to plan in all the pebbles. So all the pebbles are the kind of smaller things, the weekly, the monthly responsibilities, kids' activities, household projects, smaller events that are movable, social commitments, admin that needs to be done, appointments, and like things that you would like to happen, like nice to-dos, like all of the kind of smaller things that can be moved, that are negotiable. Those are your pebbles, so weekly and monthly responsibilities. Then you're going to go back to the beginning. You're going to look at the sand. Sand is the daily rhythms, the daily routines, everything that keeps everything in place. Because like I said, when you put the golf balls in, the pebbles are still space. When the sand goes in, it's all locked in then. You can't see through. There's like everything's secure. It's held tight. That is the daily routines, the systems, the habits, the chores, the logistics, the morning routines, the nighttime routines, the rituals for connection, the date nights, the weekly planning sessions, the weekly check-ins, the daily check-ins. The sand is all the stuff that needs to happen for everything else to happen. So your needs to be met, your needs need to be met, her needs need to be met, your relationship needs need to be met, connection, rituals, all of the things that need to happen for each individual and the unity to thrive so that they can achieve all the pebbles and then all the golf balls. Okay, so the daily rhythms and all the routines, that's the sand. The water is the dreams, the vision, the legacy, all the stuff that is like, a vision for the future, something big and bold, and it's tied to this word that you have for the year and everything else. These are the personal goals. So the personal dreams you have for yourself, the relationship goals, the parenting goals, and the family legacy, things that you want to happen, like bucket list experiences as well can fall under that. Anything that's creative, that is a dream that you want to move towards. So personal goals, relationship goals, parenting goals, and family goals. That's what we're putting in here. This is the water. This is the dreaming. So if, like I said, you fill this jar in the wrong order, your life overflows with stress. You feel out of alignment, you feel overwhelmed, things aren't fitting, things are stressed. I'm not dealing with this. I didn't know that was going to happen. Well, this is blindsided me. I'm like unaware of this coming. It catches you off guard. Whereas if you take the time to plan the entire year from day 1 to day 365, you are going to know everything that's happened as much as you possibly can. And you have a 6-month review. At month 6, in the middle of the year, you review and you look at the next 6 months if you need to. So This is how you start to reduce the mental and emotional load that your partner becomes typically overwhelmed with, because they want to look to the future. Like I said, they are future planners by their very nature. Their biology, their genetics are looking to the future. You are going there with them, and you are helping allay any fears that they might have that something is going to be around the corner that's going to surprise them. This is when you take the ambiguity away and you become less reactive and you are more planned. So if you fill the jar correctly in the right order, you create harmony, clarity, flow, and connection. That is the most important thing. And most importantly, you are creating systems to support that, because most men try to run a home on memory and effort. And I'm sure most men will realize that those aren't very good things to rely on. Memory and effort, because our effort is built on motivation and desire, and the amount of dopamine in our brain, and that wanes, it fluctuates. So effort isn't something to rely on. Memory also is unreliable, because we actually change our memory no matter how much we try and record things. Every time we remember something, our brain adjusts the story slightly, so what we remember now wasn't actually what happened a week ago, a month ago, a year ago, 10 years ago. Our memory changes things as we go on, so we cannot rely on memory and effort, and especially because we are often put under stress. And when we're put under stress, our willpower fails and our memory wanes or fluctuates, or tries to protect us. We might even make up stories that reduce culpability or responsibility. Systems never fail because they're impartial, they're structured, they're reliable. When we create a solid system, it will never fail. So having shared digital calendars, creating weekly planning meetings, having a day of rest, a Sunday reset, structuring meal plans, having monthly financial check-ins that are open and transparent using the document you've created, having chore rotations, an actual division of labor, which we'll get into in a minute, having a division of labor, having strong and solid morning routines and nighttime routines, having an evening shutdown, having recurring reminders that are set, having blue jobs, pink jobs, whatever you want to frame it as, having a kids activity chart where your kids are given responsibilities, having systems that support your family vision. When systems carry the load, your partner doesn't have to. Just remember that. When you create systems that carry the load, your partner doesn't have to. So create this streamlined home so you can have a relaxed partner. And one of the biggest gifts that you can bring your partner when we're talking about systems is reducing her decision fatigue. Decision fatigue is what happens when a woman is asked too many questions. And most women carry the cognitive or mental load of a household, so they're often asked a lot of questions, even down to the most ridiculous things like, is that plate hot? Or is this finished? I remember my wife had baked some muffins, and she sat the muffins, she took them out of the oven. I watched her do it, and she put it on top of the oven. And then about a minute later, I asked her, are those muffins still hot? And as the words came out of my mouth, I realized, why am I asking you when I could literally take 2 steps and touch it and tell with the senses of my body whether it's hot or not? So asking yourself, how many questions am I asking my partner that is disrupting her thought pattern, her creativity, her emotional exploration? How many times am I asking her questions to seek validation or direction on something that I could figure out myself? So the aim is to try and reduce decision fatigue. Women carry an enormous amount of decision making capabilities and responsibilities in the household, and it creates a lot of fatigue. Men often have no idea how much invisible thinking she does. She is thinking all the time, she is planning all the time, she is strategizing all the time. Women have more connections between the left and right hemisphere, so they're actually able to think faster and through more strategies and plans and contingencies than men can, because we are more linear thinkers. Because of the fewer left and right hemisphere connections that we have, we find it harder to switch from left brain to right brain and think in different ways. Women have more connections and they fire faster, which primes them for being the person who makes decisions. It's commonly known that large purchases in a household are normally dictated by the female in the household. So any big car purchases, furniture purchases, any salesperson will normally try to get in a room or on a call with the wife, the mother, the female in the family in order to make the decision, in order to make the sale, because she is the one that's thinking, she is the one that's planning, she's the one that's designing the environment, she's the one that's doing all the invisible load carrying, and she's under decision fatigue. So the way that you start to reduce this decision fatigue is by saying or doing and saying things like, I plan the meals this week, and here's the kind of meals that I want to cook, and I've done the food shop with all the ingredients for those meals, so that's all taken care of. I've handled the kids' schedules this week. I know that Timmy's going to this class on this night, and I've organised him to get a lift with his friend, and I'm going to take Rosie to this on this night, and I'm going to play games with them on this day. So I've handled the kids' schedule; it's all taken care of. I've sorted the gifts for my parents' anniversary that's coming up, or my brother's birthday that's coming up. And that's one thing that when you're going through birthdays in the jar method and you're planning 365 days of the year, assign responsibilities to the things that need to happen that are your responsibility. Take ownership. When you're doing it, if there's a birthday that comes up that's on your side of the family, you're responsible for buying the card, the gifts, the sending the messages, organizing the party. That's your responsibility. On your wife's side of the family, her responsibility. If it's her parents, she buys the cards, the gifts, organizes the party, takes full responsibility. Then when that's coming up in the diary, I don't need to think, my wife's going to get a card. Even if you're not actively thinking it, but you're passively thinking it, that it'll get taken care of without you actually taking action and doing it. That is abdicating responsibility to lead in the home. So you're going to organize and sort gifts for your side while she's going to do the same for her side. Appointments. I've booked all the dentist appointments. I noticed we went there 6 months ago and we need an update or a checkup. So I booked the whole family in for a dentist appointment. I planned the date night. My parents are going to take the kids and we're going to go here. I booked the restaurant. Here we go. She just has to turn up. She doesn't have to organize anything. You're taking on the organizational load of as much as you possibly can, as much as you've agreed to in your planning meeting, and as over and above if you can. And then on top of that, I've checked the budget. This is what's coming in this month. This is what's going out this month. This is how much we've got to play with. And I'm going to take you out for dinner because this is how much I roughly think we're going to be able to spend on it. So let's go. We're going to have a really lovely night tonight. Or I've booked this gig. We're going to go and see these people play live because I know you love them. Taking ownership and reducing her decision fatigue is what's going to show her that you are leading in the home. And this helps you expand on that, not just in the relationship, but in the family system, because it's all interconnected. A grounded psychological framework, replacing the kind of polarity that we spoke about last time, is the family systems leadership. So let's kind of zoom out from this. Your home is not just two people. It's a system. It's an ecosystem. It's a living emotional ecosystem. I referenced that earlier and I'm bringing it back in now. It is a living emotional ecosystem. And the Bowen family systems theory teaches that families function as interconnected emotional units. So we are interpersonal in our relationships within the family dynamic. We are emotional units that are interconnected. So we have to manage and create systems in the family that allow us to connect, that allow us to cohabitate the same space and create real harmony in the space. Because when they are not there, when these interconnected emotional units are fractured or disconnected, anxiety starts to spread. Calm starts to evaporate. Responsibility starts to become ambiguous. Clarity isn't clear anymore. We don't know who's doing what. It's the leadership that we're looking for. It's about really stepping up and creating family systems. So chore rotations, financial check-ins, responsibilities for children, wife, partner, pink job, blue jobs as a really kind of base level family system. Bowen family system theory of leadership, like creating responsibilities that fall to one person, not to another, and actually getting absolutely clear so that there's then accountability The Lencioni's model of 5 dysfunctions of a team that's used in business a lot. I use that often in my marriage counseling and couples coaching because it basically forms this pyramid, and at the bottom of the pyramid is the kind of first dysfunction of a team, and that's a lack of trust. When we don't have trust, we won't be able to engage in conflict. When we don't trust each other, we can't engage in healthy conflict. That's the next stage, avoidance of conflict. If we can't engage in healthy conflict, if we avoid it, we can't create commitments. So the avoidance of, or lack of commitments is the next stage. If we can't make commitments, we have a lack of accountability. There's no accountability. Nobody knows what they're doing. And then when we don't have accountability, we don't get the top of the pyramid. The top of Lencioni's 5 dysfunctions of a team is not achieving results. What is the result that you want? A thriving family system, leadership in the home, a connected, beautiful marriage or relationship that is thriving, and everybody is in this harmonious ecosystem. That's what we want, right? At the top of the pyramid. So trust, conflict, commitment, accountability, and results. If we can't build the trust on all the things that we've explored over the last 6 weeks, we won't be able to engage in conflict where we're not reactive or triggered or defensive or doing any of those behaviors we've discussed before, which means we can't make commitments. We can't make agreements with each other. We can't actually step up and say, this is what I'm committing to. Instead, we avoid that responsibility because we don't want to be held accountable. So in order, we have to step into the conflict, allow commitments to be made on both sides, and accept accountability. Allow the accountability, and then hold each other accountable so that we're actually working towards the results that we want to get. So trust, conflict, commitment, accountability, so that we can get the results that we want. And that is what we need in our family system. So please use this Lencioni's model to try and create some sort of family system within the household and start to divide the responsibility a little bit. Really get to those commitments and accountability, and bring about this division of labor. Division of labor in a household isn't about, you do this, I do that. It's about playing to your strengths. Division of labor is a sociological term. It's about creating a harmonious ecosystem or culture or society. And we couldn't do that by forcing people who aren't good at something to do it, or putting people in a position where they're not skilled and asking them to perform. What we do in division of labor is we find out the unique skill sets of an individual person and we help them thrive in that zone. Now, within a household, there's loads of different skills and abilities that people have that are useful, and sometimes it becomes petty or petulant to force people to do other things, and it becomes a kind of he said, she said, you do, I do, kind of tit for tat dynamic that isn't helpful for anyone. Whereas if we actually got to the point where we can appreciate our unique skills and abilities and gifts, and we allow each other to thrive, to shine in those areas, then division of labor is there. We got it. Okay, you do this, I do that, because that's where you're amazing at and that's where I'm amazing at. And then we start to see ourselves fitting together rather than, you're not doing your thing, I'm not doing my thing. What are you actually good at? Okay, I'm not very good at that. Your responsibility is to now do that thing. You're taking full ownership over that thing, and I no longer have responsibility for it. Great. Okay, you can both agree that it's easier for you to do that, so you're going to take it. Then there's accountability. Hey, that thing's not been done. Just checking in. Do you need any support to complete it? Do you need me to take anything else off so that you can do the thing that you're good at and I'm not? So I'm not going to do it, but I need you to do it. Do you need me to take anything? Vice versa. She can hold you accountable. You're amazing at that thing and you're not doing it. Why not? Let's have a check-in about it. Let's have our daily or weekly check-in about why that thing that you're responsible for is not getting done. This is about taking leadership. You can lead this. You can lead the division of labor. Google a list of household chores, household activities, household responsibilities, and take it in turns to dictate to the other person what you believe you're really good at. And then you'll end that part of the meeting with clear roles, clear agreements, clear expectations, flexibility when needed, and understanding that That is their responsibility. They know it. They're good at it. They want to do it. They've committed to doing it. They're not doing it, so there must be something else. Flexibility. What do you need in order to help you do the thing that you're genius at? So stepping in when she's overwhelmed. Maybe she's just overwhelmed and she needs you. She needs your strength, your leadership, your stability. Maybe she's not in a good place. Going back to understanding her and her cycles and her hormonal fluctuations, her behaviors, her personalities, her love languages, all these different aspects of her. Once you know those things, you can tell when she's overwhelmed and she needs help to be able to do the thing that she's agreed to do. And this allows you to maintain the standards of a home without being rigid and belligerent and petulant and dominating and forcing somebody to do something when it's not possible for them in this moment. It creates structure with compassion. So you want structure without control. You want structure without dominance. You want structure with harmony in the household. So practical implication for this week, what we're looking to do is to create structures and systems where you sit down and you meet with your partner and you start to schedule. First step is scheduling your family vision meeting, leading using the JAR method, taking full ownership over one mental load category, whether it's meals, finances, school admin, kids routines, cleaning schedule, something substantial. You're going to build one new system, a shared calendar, a meal plan, a chore chart, weekly planning rituals, morning routines, financial structure and system. You're going to try to reduce her decision fatigue by choosing 3 things and take full ownership over those things. You're going to initiate weekly household alignment. So every Sunday, 20 minutes, half an hour, non-negotiable. We're going to check in. We're going to talk about these things. We're going to look through the Lencioni's pyramid. Where's our trust at? How's our conflict? Are we holding our commitments? Are we keeping ourselves accountable? Have we achieved the results that we set out as it pertains to our family vision meeting? Have we done that? Great. Are we on track? Are the bumper lanes in place, keeping the bowling ball moving towards the pins? Are we doing that? You're also going to start anticipating needs. You're going to show up for her and lead in the home before she asks. Do what you know needs to be done without being asked to do it, and don't look for recognition, validation, or appreciation for doing it. You're doing it because you want to, not because you get something from it, and certainly not because she asked you to do it. You're doing it because you want to, because that's your responsibility. So we are now going to lead the environment, the ecosystem. We're going to bring clarity, calm, and direction and vision to our household. Leadership at home is not about forcing it. It's about foresight. It's not about force. It's about foresight. It's about clarity, not control. It's about, not doing everything. It's about creating the conditions where both people can shine. Both people can thrive in their area of genius. It's when you lead the structure and you build the systems and you create openness and compassion and consistency that is reliant on these systems, not your motivation or your effort or your memory. You're removing that and you're creating systems that are stronger than your memory and your effort. And when you do this, she starts to relax. The home becomes harmonious. Resentment starts to disappear. Connection grows because there's actually more time for it. There's less overwhelm. You actually created space and time for these rituals for connection, so it's there. And the relationship becomes a team again. That's when your family starts to thrive. When a man brings harmony to complexity, and he's got a vision for the future and steadiness to actually show up and make it happen. So this is leading at the home. This is what we have to do as men going forward. So any thoughts? Welcome. I'll see you next week.